When we're diving in the ocean, it's super important to protect our hands and protect our fingertips. And if we're in cold water, then we need to protect our hands thermally as well as protect our hands and our fingertips. There are some places where we don't need to wear gloves when we're diving, for example, in the caves, but gloves are a really important tool for protecting our hands. It's just like when we're working with power tools at home, we should be wearing safety gloves. When we're underwater and we're pulling and gliding on the shipwreck or going down a mooring line that's got coral on it, we need to protect our hands. Just being on the dive boat and using bolt snaps a lot, we need to protect our hands from little cuts that may happen. Now, anytime that we add gloves into the mix, we reduce the dexterity that we have at the surface. And when we're working as tech divers with stages, accessories, all these things that have bolt snaps, a reduction in dexterity may mean we have trouble getting things clipped or unclipped. Now, one solution to this is to take our gloves and to cut the fingertips off, or to buy gloves without fingertips. And the problem is, they're no longer useful as gloves. We lose all the thermal capabilities, or at least most of the thermal capabilities of the gloves. And the most sensitive part of our hand, our fingertips, is exposed to still get cut by things. So fingerless gloves are like wearing no gloves, except more expensive. Another solution, the best solution, is to practice using the clips, wearing our gloves, maybe at home, but definitely on land somewhere, and reaching in those hard to reach odd spots with the clips to get that muscle memory down. And something we can pair with that practice is selecting clips that make working with gloves easier. Sometimes people have a tendency to want to get the biggest clip they can because they have gloves. You don't necessarily need the biggest clip. Even with practice, using a small or medium-sized bolt snap is doable. But the Flatlip Boltsnaps make working with gloves a lot easier. And even if you don't have gloves, they're a little bit easier on your hands. And there's a couple of differences between a Flatlip bolt snap and a traditional bolt snap. First off, we can see that the gate action is totally flat here compared to being curved there. Next up, the size of the gate is larger. And third, we've got a finger stop built into the back of this, whereas this is curved. Now, those small differences may not seem like much, but when we're wearing gloves, especially, they're going to make life a lot easier. So that finger backstop allows us to hold the clip more securely. The extended gate action is much easier to find, and since we have more real estate, I'm very sure that I've got it. And lastly, that larger opening is going to allow for more real estate to find and grab my D-rings and whatever I'm clipping things off to. So those little efficiencies can help make things easier. Are these required when using gloves? Absolutely not. Are you allowed to use them when you're not using gloves? Of course you can. Now, these are small efficiencies and improvements, but the devil is in the details. There's a variety of different clips out there, and the difference is the eyelet size. So a larger eyelet allows you to stick your finger into the eyelet if you like doing that. I'm not a big fan of that because if I'm gearing up on a bouncy boat and I've got my finger in here, that might not end up well for me if the boat rocks and my finger gets trapped between a tank. But if you like doing that, the bigger eyelets are nice for that, but they also distance the clip from the accessory or the cylinder more. As an example, if I'm using something like this as an upper stage strap, top of the cylinder is going to sit that much further away from my body than if I use the smaller eyelet size. While these make things a little bit easier and more efficient compared to a traditional bolt snap, it doesn't negate the fact that you need to practice with your bolt snaps when you're dry, wearing whatever gloves you plan to wear, so you can get that muscle memory down of how to actually use the clip and clip into things, especially in places that are hard to reach if we're using something like a butt plate. That's a super quick intro to a neat innovation with bolt snaps, and thank you for watching.